What?
No, it's fine.
Nothing? Okay. All right. Is it good? Is it recording? Okay.
Wait, let me. Real quick.
What are you doing?
I'm messing things up.
Yes, immediately. Instantaneously. All right, we're still recording? Hello, folks, and welcome to The Better Opinion. This is our trial first recording and our shitty makeshift thrown together space. I am here with my co-host Mansur. What's up, bud?
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, first time ever for sure.
I've never
we haven't
seen-
known each other for years. I actually don't know anything about you and want to kill you because I hate things I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a healthy American.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of the time, but I haven't heard you say you wanted to kill me repeatedly and that you would come to my house like you're doing right now.
Yeah, I would never come to your house.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Probably. All right, so we've got a few things. So this show is about talking about our opinions and why mine are the best ones. And today we've got a lot of things we can talk about, but I believe you had something you had sort of offhandedly mentioned to me wanting to talk about. So what was that?
Yeah, I saw you replied to a tweet that said that us Trumpers had won the debate, which you had replied, I think, in a way that makes sense to the
Was it the Myron Copes one?
Yeah, it was like we won this debate or what?
Right, because it was Myron Gaines from the
Yeah.
what are they called? What is that podcast called?
I've never heard of it.
It's Fresh and Fit.
Yeah,
Fresh Fish podcast. The Fresh and Fit podcast. Yeah, so it's Myron Gaines. Yeah, I called him Myron Copes. Yeah, so sorry, what were you saying? So
I found it interesting. I think you responded like in the spirit of how intelligent that tweet was.
Yeah.
But I also found it interesting that maybe that Trump is probably not really playing the same game that we expect someone to do on a debate stage.
Right.
You know, so maybe in his head he did actually win. He did do exactly what he sought there to do, which was ignore all the questions that they sent his way and just say what his people want to hear, that dogs are being eaten by
every day.
That immigrants are just
breaking
coming
into your home, eating your dog, kicking your bird.
Yeah.
Well, so funny thing about that is Trump did sort of offhandedly admit in an interview the other day that he lost. And
Really?
Yeah, he did. And so it caused like a total cope storm from people like Nick Fuentes and all those sort of commentators, because they're like, yeah, he won. They were like taking that whole position, and then he just like straight up admitted, I lost. But I get what you're saying conceptually.
Yeah. The reason I say that is because I watched like a brief short from God damn it, Jon Stewart, who said that Donald Trump doesn't really have any straight ideas. He's just trying to win over whoever's in front of him.
In the moment. Yeah.
Whoever is in front of him is against vaccinations, he's against vaccinations. If they're for vaccinations, he's for vaccinations.
What are you talking about? I love vaccines. I've got all of the vaccines. They're huge vaccines injected into me.
Yeah.
No, actually that's true. So, I mean, this has always been true. So Trump is the ultimate liar. And I think that it's hard to explain, because when you say that, people are instantly on the defensive, right? Because they want to defend their candidate, because they see there's this weird thing that's happened where people just sort of idolize Trump, and they don't idolize him for almost any reason. They just idolize him, right? Like, he is a representation of, in their mind, they have a series of values or ideas that are important to them for whatever they think is wrong with the country or wrong with their life. And they have sort of just put on him, that is what he is. He is a representation of defeating or restoring, either defeating those negative values or restoring those positive values that they feel are missing, whether that's true or not. So it could be anything, right? Like if they think, abortion is causing us to mulch 1 trillion baby, execute the baby right after it's born. If they believe that, then he is the force that is going to fight it, right? If they think we don't represent religion enough, then he is going to bring religion back. And if they think that there's conspiracies, then he's going to, reveal all the conspiracies and get rid of all of them.
Yep.
And so regardless of that, right? That's what people believe. Like whether that's true or not is irrelevant. That is the level of belief in him they have, and it almost doesn't matter. And he knows that because Trump is a unique kind of person. He is really good at making the wrong big picture strategic decision consistently, which is why many of his businesses fail. And usually the ones that succeed are the ones that he just lets someone else run, and then he just reaps the profits. But he is very good and I remember this. So I'm going to tell a story real quick to give an example of this. So he's really good at manipulating people. Right. And I remember there was this guy I knew in college, and I always used to describe to him as not very smart, but very clever. He was not particularly good at getting good grades. He was not, when challenged by someone who kind of saw through it, very good at recovering. But if you didn't know him very well, or you were not the questioning type, or there was anything happening that would sort of distract you from what he's doing, he was really good at tricking people.
He's a good magician or a salesman.
Yeah. He was very friendly. He seemed very confident, but he didn't come across as full of himself. And he knew how to say the right thing. He's talking to a young English teacher. And so what did he do? He just talked about Marx in one of his papers. And, she's like 24. I'm like 19. She's like 24. Yeah. She's teaching English at college, but it's like, a for-profit film school that doesn't even really care about it had to keep its accreditation. Yeah. It has to have a English class. Yeah. And, he talks about Marx, and I read his paper. Marx didn't belong in the paper, but she didn't care because she's still so young and so focused on, I think maybe she was 26. I don't remember. But she was so focused on being an intellectual and being a teacher, being a professor, that she didn't really, she was just like, oh, Marx. Yeah, I've read Marx.
She was stuck on the title rather than actually focus on going into the nitty gritty.
And don't get me wrong, I liked her well enough.
I'm sure she was fine.
Yeah, and actually, she definitely wasn't a terrible teacher. I wrote papers focused on film, and we actually had some really good discussions on those, and she actually really liked my papers. And as a dyslexic, I struggled to make particularly great papers because while the content may be good, the structures I'd always make simple errors, right?
Well, besides the point, I don't think it's up to a teacher to determine the intellectual value of what you're writing, more just to make sure that you're absorbing whatever.
Right. And so she was a good teacher in that way. She'd sit down with me, she'd be like, hey, here's how we're going to rewrite this so that it fits this stuff, and she helped me do better at writing. And so that was good. So I don't mean to speak ill of her, but that was a prime example of one of those moments where this guy was always late to class, would turn stuff in late, but he always knew how to make an excuse in a way that touched on the button of the person he was dealing with to get them to sort of capitulate to what he wanted. And now he was a pretty all right guy. I never actually saw him harm any person. Yeah. He was very manipulative to his own benefit, but I never really saw him. He never screwed anyone over. That's why I ended up liking him, is he might have been a manipulative sort of conniving guy a little bit, but the only person he ever hurt was himself. He never really hurt other people. So it was okay, well, I don't like what you're doing, but you're not a bad person, Yeah. But Trump is just like him, but a bad person. and so everything he says, he's really good at picking up what he believes someone wants to hear.
I wouldn't say just because you did mention that he was a bit humble. Is this is.
Well, no, he wasn't humble. It's just the way he would speak
sounded humbling.
It didn't sound full of himself. He didn't spend much time complimenting himself. Trump does, right? My point wasn't to draw a perfect parallel. They are different people.
Just a reference.
But it was an example of that. I'm not very smart, but I can see what's in front of me that I believe is going to be the right targets, the right buttons to press to achieve whatever I want. And Trump knows that he doesn't have a platform. He's never had a platform. His platform is, you don't like liberals? Well, the liberals did blank. Blank is whatever bad thing the current group he's talking to doesn't like. And I will bring back blank. Blank being whatever they care about.
Yeah. Trump I felt was always the person who, if you were a person who felt left out by just the government in general. You went to Trump hoping he did something that helped you. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of those people have fallen off recently.
To more of a degree. I mean, I think the problem is that the reality is that Trump is old, right? He is as old now as Biden was when he started his, campaign, right? And you can now see that he is just not really there. He's not the guy he was 10 years ago, or I guess 12 years ago, right? When Obama was like first running, when he started talking shit, started the birther movement, all of that stuff. I mean, like you can just see that he's not all there. And I think that a lot more people who are sort of swept up in a lot of the combative politics are, now things still aren't better. We had 8 years of Obama, 4 years of Trump, and now 4 years of Biden, and things are still rough in life.
Yeah.
And so I think more moderate people are starting to calm down a little bit and go, especially because the internet in general is such a ludicrous place. So I'm going to step away from this for a second to talk about something I mentioned to people probably multiple times over the past, I'd say, 6 months, is I realized something. If you pay attention to the way the internet has been since 2020, you'll notice that it seems like it's gone a little bit more insane. People seem more obsessed with conspiracy theories. People are... Go ahead.
I unfortunately can't say. I'm too disconnected from social media. I've decided to go into it more because I feel like I have to in order to understand what's happening now. But I'm too disconnected to like see these trends that you're talking about. So like, please explain.
Okay, so when you look at like politics in general, you've got even senators and people like that. They're all super obsessed with conspiracy theories. They're talking about, we literally just got done talking about Haitians eating pets in Springfield.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats.
And the example proof was an American-born woman who was clearly mentally unwell, eating an animal in a driveway 130 miles away from Springfield. So like that was our proof, right? But nobody needed to really, they just let it happen. And that kind of stuff's happened a lot over the past 4 years. And if you think about it for a moment, one of the things I've noticed is that a lot of people right around my age, there are some who buy into it, but most people, even the right-leaning ones, are like, they tend to not really buy that shit very easily. And I think it's because millennials, Zoomers, we all grew up on the internet, right? We know that most of what's on the internet is bullshit, right? People always tell you, the joke online always was there are no women on the internet and everything you read is fake, right? That was like what you say all the time. And the reason is the real idea was question everything because most people are lying because there's nothing to stop them.
Well, that was technically supposed to be always the case. It's just the internet has made it much easier for people to just make shit up.
Well, no, but see, let me be clear. What happened 4 years ago? What happened in 2020?
2020, Trump lost the election.
No. COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone was stuck inside. And what was the only way for people to derive entertainment and interpersonal connection? The internet. So what we had was older people who only interacted with the internet on the surface level. They're on the internet a little bit every day. Their email, maybe some news, maybe they posted on Facebook. The majority of their life was spent in the real world or watching television. All of a sudden, all of the people who were, I call them normies, so boomers and other Gen Xers and millennials that are our age, normies all started spending all of their time on the internet. They were going deeper into it. And with that, then now they're on it 100, not 20 minutes, not 30 minutes, not even an hour a day, not only when they're working or when they're winding down for bed. They were on it all day. And they had just spent the majority of their life disconnected from social media. They'd never been on places like 4chan or Something Awful. Heck, many of them barely even touch Reddit. Maybe surface Reddits. No weird, nowadays there's a subreddit for everything. You want to fuck toasters? There's a subreddit where everyone talks about the best toaster for having sex with.
Oh,
right.
What's it called? So
I don't know.
So I don't visit it.
So you don't, but yeah. I don't know, like r/toaster fuckers. I don't know. But but you get my point, right? These people had no filter and no preparation, right? So they're treating everything they read
As gospel.
right? There's the source is, yeah, I'm actually a doctor. Dude, he said he's a doctor. Yeah,
He wouldn't lie.
he wouldn't lie on the internet, right?
Lie? Why would anyone lie on the internet?
Why would anyone lie? But that's my point, right? Is that these people weren't prepared for 9-10 hours a day of internet, because that's their only thing they do. They can't leave their home. They can't see their friends. They just sit at home, and so they're on the internet. And I think that created an influx of people who were incredibly impressionable, which then encouraged the people who lie.
That's interesting, because I think it brings back the snake oil salesman from back in the day. I'm not quite sure on the history, but I know at some point there were just people who sold you crude oil as like, this is the cure-all. It had gold flakes and all of this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And like everyone came to like the town meeting or whatever. It was like they didn't know any better. But I feel like since then it's probably harder to actually get information out to people. People are not answering phone calls. It's like, how do you get a TV ad? It's like it probably costs a lot of money. But now on the internet, you can make an account for free. You can make 1,000 accounts for free. You can make a bot do it for you, and then you are the automated snake oil salesman now.
Yep. That is, in my mind, the number one contributor. I mean, I'm sure there's other things to it, but when we talk about how easily people have been swept up into these storms of just whatever. I don't even want to call it one thing. I don't want to just call it misinformation, disinformation. It could be any of these things, but I think the vast majority of people just weren't prepared. Because here's what I've seen. For like the past 4 years, they've gone cuckoo, right? And there are still people who have. But I've seen it even with my own family, where they went like really deep. And then, like, eventually, maybe some arguments we've had, and then also they just were like, I think I need to turn off the computer. This actually happened. One of my family members said, I stopped going online, and they just mellowed out. And it's like that constant bombardment, but you're not mentally prepared for it. I was a salesman, and I also it's really hard to sell to me. In fact, the best way to sell to me is to give up, because then I actually now start trusting what you're saying more, because if I can tell you're selling, I just don't listen. I'm just not interested. Even if I would want it, I go, I don't know how much of what you're saying could be true because you're selling to me, so I'm just going to disregard the whole thing. That, I think, is like the greatest example of the difference between the two groups. Is, you've got this group of people who's skeptical of everything because, well, of course, most things are a lie. And so if I'm interested, I'll just do my research, right? And this group of people who never really knew. And so they bought heavily into it. Why does this matter? Well, because now a lot of people are cooling off.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going, I don't know if I disconnected a little bit. I've realized that, there isn't, the kids I see walking down the street aren't suddenly all transgender, even though that's what Matt Walsh says, millions.
How many people have had this done?
Depends on what. I don't think we have exact numbers, but if we're talking about the drugs, millions.
Millions have been transitioned, says Matt Walsh, while being live fact-checked by Joe Rogan, of all people. The nobody's shown up at their house to confiscate all of their stuff, right? Where people are even starting to realize, they're not, pulling babies right out of the womb and then putting a 1911 to their head and shooting them. These things aren't happening. And so while some people still believe it, more and more people are starting to go, well, maybe I'm not necessarily a liberal. Maybe this stuff isn't
I think
actually is insane.
Yeah, I think another problem is that people are not used to this amount of stress in their lives.
No.
I think your average American goes to work, does their 9 to 5, comes home, maybe has a beer or two, watches shit on the Fox show, and goes to sleep. Maybe once in a while watches something stupid on, like, in the movies, and it's like, God, cinema.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, no, I do think that's right, and I think that's something a lot of people haven't really
and there's nothing,
discussed.
just to make sure, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that lifestyle.
No.
I'm not saying that's bad.
I think it's probably healthier.
Yeah.
Actually, I think a lifestyle where you live the life you want and just keep yourself well. You know, you go to bed, you get good sleep, you go to work, you earn your money, you try to just do the best job you can to meet whatever lifestyle standard you want, and then you come home and just like have an evening. I think that's actually probably healthier for most people.
Yeah, because the main, I forget who said this. I think, no, it wasn't Thomas Jefferson. We want to like preserve people's right to like pursue happiness.
Right.
It's off. It's paraphrased a lot, but yeah, everyone should be able to reach happiness, and I think that's fine as long as you're not hurting someone else.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think this goes into sort of some issues with society. He said society. Haha. You ever notice that? I'm going to deviate for a second. Anytime
Hey,
someone says society,
You did it this.
I know I did it this time, but it's because I'm so used to it when sitting in Discord. Is like you say society, and everyone who thinks that their brain is functioning, it's not, goes like, "Ha, we live in a society," and I'm like, "Wow, did you know we actually do live in a society?"
Oh, really?
That's crazy. No, but so the thing that's going on with society right now is that same influx of like tricking people into believing what is true has also caused us to live in this like grinding mindset where you should always be working to like achieve more. You know, you got these, it's like Myron sitting there, you know, everything is about become the optimal male who's like mass producing children or something. And like, yeah, well, for the baby mulching program that Biden wants, right? You know, how are you going to trans all the kids if you're not mass producing them, right? So, but it is a weird thing where they said, well, this is what derives value. And it's like, well, is value derived from just some standards like some guy on a podcast tells you? It shouldn't be. It should be whatever it is you want out of life, you should be working towards that. I think that, because, you know, you're just saying there's nothing wrong with that lifestyle.
There's nothing wrong with any lifestyle as long as you're not like out there murdering 10 people
Or
It's like-
executing the baby.
or executing. It's like just going out.
Just bam, bam. Well, he's just doing late stage abortions.
Yeah.
You know?
As long as like, listen, as long as like you're not doing anything that hurts other people even indirectly, just you're just living your life, you're happy, it's like doing what you're, it's like maybe not you're fucking trees or whatever.
I don't know, that only hurts you. I mean, if you want to fuck some trees,
Yeah,
like, your life.
if you're happy with where you are, I think you're fine.
Yeah, and if you're unhappy, then I would encourage you to put the effort in to make that change
And fuck more trees.
and fuck more trees. But I don't think that the idea that there's, you know, you need to like get involved in the grind, and, you know, you need to have like every relationship needs to be one way open, so you have like 4 girlfriends and produce 1 million babies and make $1 million.
I think the
and
biggest
own a
problem
Bugatti.
with the grind is, what are you grinding for? You're grinding for someone else's. I don't even know if they're happy when they reach the end of the grind. You're reaching for what someone else thinks the grind should reach.
That's exactly my point. Is grinding should be something you do to achieve a goal for you, whatever that is, right? And you know, because I mean, personally, I think in life I wish to avoid a grind, right? But sometimes you do have to grind. If you want to grind to lose weight, if you want to grind to eat better, that means sometimes you have to do a lot more cooking or a lot more shopping or a lot more planning. If you want to achieve just like a strength, you got to grind at the gym. If you want to achieve a certain financial income, you might have to grind at something that it produces income.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is, you know, even a hobby, you know, you want to become better at a video game, you have to grind it out and practice. You got to
Yeah.
be better at a guitar. All of those things require a grind. And so if you have a goal that you truly desire, it is something you really want, there's nothing wrong with grinding towards it, but it should be something you want. And there is no correct answer. J.D. Vance saying that, if you don't have children, then you don't deserve to have as much of an opinion is like, well, hold on. What if someone just doesn't want children? Like, have you created an environment where they're incentivized to want children?
I think that another main problem with that is that we have to find a way to try to help everyone who lives in America and not just one group of people. Because it's like, we are in a society, haha. And because of that, we have to talk to other people. We have to meet other people. And I think we have to strive to make it so that as many people as possible are happy. We can't do that for everyone, but we can try. And we need to just work to help. We need to help each other.
Yeah, well, I talk about this a lot whenever I'm talking about any issue. Just choose a topic, like a race issue, a sex issue, a gender issue, whatever. Right? You choose a topic where there's a group, and that group is claiming that there's a problem.
Yeah.
90% of the time, the core of that issue is addressed by not addressing just that issue, right? So it's like income inequality, right?
Yeah.
If you choose one, whether it's racial discrimination or sexual discrimination, right? And we'll just grant it. We'll just say it's 100% true. So let's say, ignoring all, people still talk about the gender pay gap. If we ignore all the statistics about that and we just grant it as 100% true, then ask yourself the question, why is it true? Well, the core issue is that a company is capable of paying two people in the same position, doing the same work, different incomes. Because of this, whenever they can, they will, because that is in their best interest.
Yeah.
So regardless of who the victim of this is, in this case, in this claim, it's that women are the victim of it, regardless of why that's true, whether it's sexism or whether it's the way society teaches young girls to negotiate or whatever, regardless of the reason, the issue is addressed if you make it so that you can't do that.
Yeah.
If you have to pay everyone based on a system that doesn't factor in any other details, right? So if every customer service rep always starts their job at $35,000 a year, let's just say, no matter what, right? And you can only get more by earning raises through merit, and we have a strict, there's a way to corrupt that too, but I'm not solving the problem right now. I'm just identifying the problem.
Yeah.
If you create a system that, for the most part, you're aiming to really limit the ability to not grant those appropriate raises or that appropriate pay, you solve the problem regardless of what the other causes of that problem, the sub causes might be, right? Because whether it's because some guy just says, I hate women and want to pay them less because I'm evil, ha ha ha. It's like, well, if he can't do it, if you've created a way for you that he just can't do it, then it's irrelevant what his reason is, right? And that's, what I'm saying is I know there are people who will type in and be like, well, that's not a solution. I know, I don't have the solution. I can identify the problem though.
But we can try. I hate the idea of oh, that's not a solution, but we can at least try something. We can at least try something and see if it works. Because I think that is one of the main problems is that we don't try anything.
No, we don't. I agree. When Bernie Sanders was running for president, I debated two different people who were friends of mine. One was a Republican and one was not a libertarian. He was just independent.
Yeah.
And they both said the same thing. Well, I don't think that would work. I said, well, what's your solution? And their solution was to keep it the same. And I said, does that address the problem?
It's we're just stuck. It's just going to be a problem forever.
I'd rather try and fail than do nothing at all.
Because I think that's the biggest problem with this government is that we never go anywhere because we're so afraid of failing and we are so afraid of just it's like, oh, well, this failed, so it's never going to work in any other way. Why are we bothering?
And that's not even the government. That's the people.
Yeah.
Because the reality is contrary to popular belief, we actually do still have a government that needs the people to want them to be in government. But because we as people are so afraid of everything and so unwilling to move and do things differently, the best strategy because politicians run on incentives, right? And some of those incentives are lobbying or whatever bad thing is causing them to do things we don't like. But it is also that it is in their best interest to be as milquetoast and ineffective as possible and to always just say the right things without doing anything. So if they never do anything, they can't fail, right? So they just say that they want to do a thing, but then they never do that thing because then they can blame the other people and say, well, they never let me do the thing. So they never tried the thing, so it never failed, and they never got to try the thing because insert boogeyman stopped them, so they keep their job. And then they get their money manipulating the stock market, which is what the majority of them do, or lobbyists, right? That is how they keep their job, because the incentive structure that exists in our government means that trying new things is not in a politician's best interest.
It's also hard to measure the success of something and
For sure, because
and present it to a people in a way that is not just numbers in my face.
the consequences of a president aren't usually felt until the end of the next president's term.
Yeah.
You know, like the things we are seeing now in the economy are the consequences of Trump's action. The negative increased. Some things are quicker, but like the negative, inflation. Yeah, deregulation is always bad.
Yeah.
Like the pork industry, Trump deregulated the pork industry.
Yeah.
And now near the end of Biden's term, we've got pork poisoning people and being recalled for being poisonous and all that kind of stuff. And this is like a super common issue whenever you remove regulation, because the incentive structure of regulation is, how do I put this? When a company's goal is to earn money, and especially a publicly traded company is to earn money.
Well, not just that. They want to profit more than they did the previous year.
Right. So, yeah, so that's what I was trying to say.
Oh, okay.
Is a publicly traded company, their goal is to earn money and increase their stock value because the executive staff operates at the will of the board and the stockholders, right? And those people have, so the stockholders will just sue or remove you or vote you out if you do not constantly produce value for them. And so to produce value, you have to make number go up.
Yes.
Always go up, never down, always up, which isn't sustainable, which is why every company eventually becomes so big it becomes mediocre.
Yeah.
Right, and everything goes down in value and quality, and eventually the company peters out and loses its dominance, right? And this happens a lot. What?
Sorry.
What?
You said Peter.
What?
It's another word for penis.
Oh, Peter. You're just laughing at penis jokes. Literally, Peter out made you think penis, and now you're giggling. Are you 5?
I never claimed to be mature.
Okay. So it's not funny. It's funny that you find it so funny.
But you're laughing, aren't you?
I'm laughing that you are insane. You're literally crying that I said Peter. Hey, Peter. Hey, Peter. Can I borrow your egg, Peter?
No.
No? All right.
I don't have one.
Good. All right. So the point that I'm making is the incentive structure that these companies have is not designed to put the brakes on when something is bad. It's designed to keep things as profitable as possible, which means reducing headcount, reducing production costs, reducing maintenance costs, and the cost of production is universally always going to be higher if you are doing things to increase the quality. So the issue you run into is that if there's no one who doesn't care what the stockholders think, putting the brakes on, they will always do what serves the immediate future better, because stockholders do not care. They do not care about 10 years from now. Investors do. You know, someone like Goldman Sachs, you know, they're going to put $1 billion into your company, and then they're going to forget you exist. You know, they're going to hold you for like 10 years. And then when you've gone from $5 a share to $100 a share, they're going to be like, great, we made $1 trillion. You know what I mean? Like that is how they operate. But most traders, you know, most stockholders, they're not thinking about that. You know, they're concerned in what's happening month by month, or even, you know, at most year by year. And so that's how you're thinking. And regulation, despite it being this like poisoned word, exists to put the brakes on because you're not going to do it yourself. Yeah. That's why it exists. And so companies and people who, you know, executives who cycle between companies, you know, you'll get these CEOs who are only there for a year. Their goal, they don't care. If they can do crime, if they can just be evil and make a ton of money and then exit with a golden parachute, that's the best idea. Right? Because a lot of these executives have golden parachutes. Even if they get fired, they get a huge payout and they leave quietly, right? Because that's what their contract says, right? So their only goal is to make as much money as they can, as fast as they can, and then abandon ship, you know? And that is what they will do if there is no one giving them proper oversight. Yeah. And it happens time and time again. So yeah, deregulation is like universally bad. Wrapping this back to the original cope comment, right? When we're talking about the coping people on Twitter.
That was what we were
talking about.
That was crazy.
The reason that people cope like that is because that's the name of the game. You just say
what you
you want to be true, and then everyone just starts agreeing. And your hope is that you're just going to obfuscate reality by just convincing everyone to lie to themselves. And it has worked for a long time, but that debate was so bad. Because like, here's the thing. I don't love Biden. I only like Biden in that I like him more than I like Trump. But if I could have had almost any other Democratic candidate, I would have. Yeah. Right. But
I'm glad we got someone else.
I'm glad we got someone other than Trump, and I'm glad that we're not getting Biden again. Yes. Right. So I don't love Biden, but in the debate where everyone said that he looked abysmal, I was actually confused. I was like, I thought they both looked terrible.
Yeah, they both looked terrible, but we expected Trump to be.
That's the problem.
The problem was, I expect Trump to say whatever the hell he's thinking at the moment, and it's multiple radio signals he's picking up from somewhere.
That are just his teeth pick up the signals.
It's like he's picking up some weird TV programming from the sky, and that's what he's just blurting out. While Biden, I also expected. I'm surprised more people didn't expect it, because, like, I'll be honest, Biden is about as sharp as like a sanded down piece of wood is.
Yeah. No, he's definitely not the sharpest tool in the shed anymore.
I actually thought better of him here than I used to think, but which was still not great.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think? I don't think Biden in and of himself is a great leader. I think he did a really good job at it. It seems to me that what he did a really good job at was choosing the right people. Yeah. He did what probably a president should do, is he chose other better, more qualified young people to lead the sections of the government that really needed it. So I think of like Lena Khan, right? Like, she's doing an amazing job bringing all these major corporations to task, right? And I think that we need more of that. So I think that, you know, he did a good job at that, but, and that actually improved my opinion of him, because I think people sometimes expect the president to do a little bit too much.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But I was also had a problem with him because I didn't like him as a person.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's like the best thing people told me was that his family had died, and while I feel
The best thing people told me. Dude, his family's dead. Oh, now I'm voting for him. I love a man with a dead family.
Listen, I feel bad that his family has died, but I'm sure that was a long time ago.
Because he's ancient.
And also, it's not a reason you should be president of the United States.
Yeah.
And also, I'll be very frank, it doesn't make you a good person.
Oh, yeah, no. So my point is that, like, there are things that I think he's improved on.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like my opinion of him has actually improved during his presidency, but I don't want to keep him as president. I think that, Trump is not good for anybody, the Republican Party or America in general.
I'm interested to see what happens after the Republican Party
Yeah, I want to see what happens 4 years from now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see what happens because I want the Republican Party to be good.
Yes, me too.
Because we need a good like counterbalance to the Democratic Party, because I do not like everything the Democratic Party is doing.
No.
Even though I kind of side with them, there are a lot of things I'm pissed about.
I side with them more often simply because, so this is what I always tell people. My decisions are not based off of ideology. They're going to be based off of what is best for me or what I think is best for the society I live in, which is best for me, right?
Yeah.
So when I make a decision, it is because, people say, oh, I'm not a one-issue voter, right? Like they'll say like, oh, you just love executing the baby, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, I just believe that these are a series of things that are either best for me or best for society, and I live in that.
An interesting thing about abortion specifically, is that my mom was also not for abortions. As a background, she's a pediatrician, so it's like her whole job is to like help babies live. So she's like, of course, she's not really happy when people want to kill them, and I'm also not. It's like the idea of an abortion I don't like, but I think we should have them, and that the government should not decide whether or not you can get one, because this is, one, not a perfect society, and there are a lot of things that could go wrong. One, you could die giving birth.
Sure.
Two, is like not everyone actually knows how reproductive systems work.
Sure.
And three,
Yeah, people do stupid stuff.
yeah, people do stupid stuff. And three, people make mistakes sometimes.
What I always say to people when it comes to abortion is I say, your belief on abortion is going to be almost entirely derived from what you believe the consequences of death are.
I think the problem is the law should not be a moral thing.
Oh, I agree. 100%. See, that's my point I'm making. You actually just said exactly what my point is. So people's opinion on abortion, even if they don't realize it, is almost entirely based off of what they believe the consequences of death are. Because let me ask you the question. Why is murder bad? Like, why do we have laws against murder?
It's because it would be very hard to do anything as a society if you knew the person next to you could just kill you.
Yeah, if I could just kill you or our friend who's sitting here secretly in the back watching our every move, just because I decided to, that'd be really bad for us getting together to work on this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we couldn't do it. You wouldn't trust me.
Yeah, it would be very hard to do anything in life, because if you were mean to someone, they could just come up and murder you.
Right. Any functioning society needs to have a level of trust, of safety, like a belief of general safety and a belief of general trust and structure to function. And this has always been true, which is why laws about murdering people have existed since people just put rocks together to build a house with no mortar or anything, right? And so the reason that you're not allowed to just kill people is that, right? And it's because it's not just because of that. That is the main reason. It is also because there's a series of consequences. It's not just whether we trust each other. It's also that you're killing a provider. We're killing someone who produces tax infrastructure. You're killing someone who produces a product. That product might be that they run the city.
Yeah.
There's so many consequences to the death of a person.
You're cannibalizing the structure that you're in.
Yes. So that is why. Does a fetus, an undeveloped fetus, provide any of these things? The answer, of course, is no.
No. I'd also argue if we were to force them to live, we don't have anything in place to help them.
Oh, yeah, of course not. I mean, you have all these people that say, we'd love to take your child, and then they just never do, right? Like, these people are like, we can't have children. We'll adopt your baby. Dude, there's tons of babies to adopt. How do you not have one yet?
There's foster homes filled with babies.
Well, it's because what they want is a brand new newborn baby that they can pretend is their genetic baby. They don't want to actually help young children who need a home. They don't give a crap. Once you're not a baby anymore, they don't care about you. They hope that you enter the mulching program and get mulched because they do not care about you.
Yeah.
Instead, they vote to defund child health care, right? And so, but this goes back to this main idea that the reason that murder is illegal is not a moral one. It is because it is bad in every way for our society to do it. Now, morality may play a role in our reaction,
yes,
but it is not the reason you put it into law. There are tons of immoral things that are legal, and they're legal because everyone kind of agreed, yeah, but like there's no reason to be enforcing it. There's no victim, and so that once you realize that everyone who's against abortion is against it because they feel that it is a moral injustice.
Yeah.
And that morality is going to come down to their subjective beliefs. And at the core of that, it's going to be how apathetic to death are you?
Yeah.
And people who strongly believe in a consequence of death, people who think you only get one life, or that you go to hell if you're not baptized, or whatever belief you have, if you feel that was like a true, like you have just denied a being its forever existence and it'll never exist again, you're going to feel that this is a huge, huge problem.
Yeah, because law is very bad at nuance, which is why we have lawyers, which is why we reference previous cases. Well, in this
Precedent,
case, we had like this, and this. But this specifically would set a very bad precedent in that it tells people what they can and cannot do with their body.
Yep.
And that is a very dangerous thing to set as precedent.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so the point here goes back to what you just said. We shouldn't govern with morality, right? Because morality is subjective. So when we're talking about abortion, regardless of what your feelings are on it, it shouldn't be about your feelings. It should be about what is the practical consequence. And once you do that, the practical consequence of not having abortion is one that is bad for society as a whole. It causes a ton of babies without homes. It causes people to kill themselves with back alley abortions. It causes people who don't want their children and abuse them if they don't abandon them. It causes more poor people. It does not increase education levels in society. It does not increase an educated workforce. There is no benefit to mass production of unwanted children, but there is a benefit to making sure that when people have children, it's because they want them and they're ready for them.
Yeah.
Right? But that doesn't fit with the narrative of people who have moral outrage.
I think there's also a bigger problem of we're not mandating people understand how their bodies work, which is like, I think some of the same people who want to prevent abortion are preventing this like information of, well, how do you get pregnant in the first place?
Right. Yeah, no, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot you can do with that. But to wrap it back to that topic of politics, right? When I am voting, these are the kinds of thought processes I'm going through. I'm going, what is going to be best for the place that I live, right?
Yeah.
And because I own guns. I love guns. I love shooting guns. I do not think that the government should be able to stop me. I don't think the government should have the only ownership of killing, I think if someone breaks into my home, I don't think there should be any question in the legality of defending my home. I've gotten in fights with some of my best friends about that, where I'm like, no, if you live in a state where it is safe for me to kill you if you break into my home and you choose to do it, you did it knowingly, right?
I think you also said that you were for like going to like authorizing gun control, like background checks and stuff.
Well, background checks already exist. So let's keep that.
Yeah.
We can keep doing that.
But it's the gun shows that are the problem.
Well, gun shows have a bunch of loopholes.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just everyone knows about it and just won't do anything about it. Like, I do think that, yeah, gun shows should probably follow the same rules as everyone else. I do. Ironically, I am all for the proper regulation of gun ownership. I also think that the law right now is, we don't have a right to bear arms. Anytime someone can disarm you for, say, officer safety, is not you. This means you don't have a right to bear arms. You know, if like let's say you're legally holding a weapon, right? You you have a firearm, it's on your hip. You're in a state that allows that. You have a concealed carry license, and you get pulled over, right? And then an officer pulls you out of your car because he's being an asshole and he just feels like it. And then he goes, "I see a weapon. I'm going to disarm you for my safety." Well, you don't have a right to bear arms then. Right? Because actually, just because he felt like it, he was able to take away your gun, only returning it to you when he's decided he's failed to harass you long enough to find a crime. You know, so I have a lot of strong feelings on this kind of stuff. But at the same time, the only way you're going to convince me to vote for you or to not vote for the person who votes for everything else that's better for me, like better minimum wages, better health care, abortion, all these things that I think affect my neighborhood, my environment, is if that person says, I'm literally going to come to your house and take your guns. Because not only are you taking my guns, you're also taking a ton of money from me, thousands of dollars, you know, and that is where I'm going to have a problem. But my point that I'm making is that I believe in those things, like the right to bear arms. I think the ATF is way oversteps its boundaries and needs to be heavily pulled back. I don't think you should be able to break into a guy's house and then murder him because he defended his home believing it was being broken into. You know, I don't think, I hate all of that kind of stuff, but I also believe in, women's rights because half our population is women and it benefits me if their lives are better. And not even from like just a moral standpoint. It is mathematically in my best interest. Yeah. And so every decision I make when I vote for someone is based on what is in my best interest. And once all of my best interest is taken care of, I can start voting based on just like moral opinion.
I think one problem is people don't think in terms of their best interest, but more of what they think how they think things should be.
Not what is best, just I think it should be this.
But there's no real background of, it's just like my dad said it should be this way. My guys say it should be this way, and I really think it should be this way.
Yeah, and then if you ask why, they're just like, because it's better.
Because it is the way it is.
Because it is, yeah. Because of the way that it is. Like that's what their reason is. I agree. People don't vote in their best interest. They actually vote against their best interest all the time. You'll have someone who is being underpaid, and then a law is you will be forced to be paid correctly. And they go, I hate that. That's bad. Everything will be more expensive, and I'll lose my job. And then like,
everything is still more expensive.
Everything is still more expensive and they lose their job, but the minimum wage didn't go up, and it's like, oh, the same bad thing happened to you, but now, it also happened to everyone else, people don't vote in their best interest at all. And it's because they've been convinced by people like Trump to just be running on a fervor and to live on copium and to live on just, what would you call it? I don't want to call it fervor, but it is the just strong emotional opinions about topics.
There's also like it feels like a lot of candidates use religion in their reasoning.
Oh yeah.
So I think fervor is correct in that they pull the same thing that I feel there are like these church scam artists who say you should donate to our church, and
then God will love you more.
Then God will love you more as they're on their yacht, and your grandma is
dying,
stage 4 cancer, dying. It's like not happy with how things are going. It's like I need God's blessing, so I will donate to this rich asshole.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty dead on actually. I think everyone would do better if they took a moment to just ask themselves, how does blank thing benefit me?
Well, it took a moment and actually think about it instead of just saying,
Yeah. Well, really think about it and then ask yourself, how does this actually benefit me? It requires a level of introspection that lets go of how you feel. One of the things is, I hate Ben Shapiro for saying facts don't care about your feelings, because he basically doesn't say facts half the time. Half of his belief system is just his religion, which is like religion is in and of itself not fact-based. It's faith-based, right? And then people who are religious create a bunch of like things they call facts that are rooted in faith and then use those as an argument. But ignoring that, I hate the fact that he said that, because the argument about feelings has become unhealthy, right? Facts don't care about your feelings. The truth is that feelings are irrelevant to your internal decision making. You should never make your decisions based on how you feel. But feelings do matter when analyzing other people and thinking about how what you're doing may affect them and how they may react.
Yeah.
So feelings do matter because people have them. And you should always keep that in mind when engaging with the world. But your feelings don't matter if you're sitting down and going, what's the best decision here? Because chances are your feelings are always going to tell you to do the wrong thing. If you're angry, they're going to drive you to act rashly. They may be rooted in a reasonable place. It's not to say that you can't look at your feelings and ask yourself,
but it's not always the best decision.
yeah, well, for example, if my friend really offended me, I could sit down and analyze that feeling and figure out where it came from, and it may be justified. And if I've sat down and analyzed that feeling and found that it was justified, and I may be able to come to the conclusion that it is worth discussing with them, because even if I didn't have that feeling, whatever they did was because I've been able to determine, that wasn't a good thing they did. It's probably worth discussing with them, because repeated events like that, feelings regardless, aren't good. But at the same time, if I were to treat those feelings as a reason in and of themselves, I may lash out and ruin that friendship or overreact or cause something that is not to my benefit. And that's the problem with feelings, is that they innately drive you to a reaction that isn't based on any sort of practical analysis.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to let go of your own feelings to do a practical analysis of what is best for you. And I think people need to do that more. But that's hard, because we live in an age where nobody wants you to do that. They want you to just...
They want you to feel passion.
And react. Make sure to like and subscribe, because I gave you the right feelings. That's what it always comes down to, right? The incentives. Remember I talked earlier about incentives. The incentive structure that we live in is one that does not teach anyone to be critical and pragmatic. It is one that teaches them to be reactive, because that benefits the speaker.
And that, in a way, has kind of shaped how social media is evolving.
Exactly. Well, did you think that your initial question would lead to all of this?
Yes, because I don't know if you thought I would say no, but this is what happens when we talk.
When we talk, yeah. Yeah, well, once you get me going, right?
Yeah.
I got a lot to say, so you just have to prod me and it comes out. Well, either way, do you have anything else you want to say on the topic?
Well,
Do you have anything you need to finish or that was left on the table?
I don't think so. Despite the middle hiccup, I think this was a good first run. We'll see if everything managed to survive the recording.
Yeah, maybe you guys. Hopefully you guys thought it was good enough. I mean, we had a hiccup in the middle, which I'm sure you'll see a skip at some point in the recording. But overall, it felt good to me. I think hopefully the more we do it, the more refined it'll. Don't put your.
He's gonna murder us.
He's gonna murder us. Our computer operator is gonna stab us with a knife. No, but that's why we need murder to be illegal. Yeah. No, but hopefully if you got this far, you thought it was good enough. Hopefully we'll be able to keep refining it, and maybe one day we'll have a background that's more than just this room. But either way, thanks for talking today, Mansour.
Yeah.
And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Let's put stop recording.
You can
Yeah.
just put stop recording.